Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our Tech Tuesday webinar series. My name is Kevin Marheine, and I am the host of the series. Joining me here today is David Fry, one of our solution architects here that focuses on our modern workplace practice. But before I hand it over to David to walk through our presentation we have here about webinars in Microsoft Teams, just a couple of quick housekeeping items for you. As always, we are recording today's webinar and we'll be making it available on demand. So whether you want to tune back in and check out what David's covered here today, or if you're watching it for the very first time, that recording will be available to you. We'll also make a copy of the slide deck available to you as well, so you can refer back to that as well. We also have the Q&A functionality here inside of the Teams Live event. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and feel free to submit them using that tool. And we do try to save some time at the end of the presentation to go over those. With that being said, David, I know webinars in Microsoft Teams is a very new sort of offering. It hasn't even officially been, well, it has started rolling out, but it has not officially gotten out to everyone just quite yet. So please keep in mind that this is sort of a first look that David's giving us here, and certainly excited to take a look at this functionality. But with it being so early in the process, Microsoft hasn't had a chance yet to get us all of the good marketing goodies and things like that to help support everything. So wanted to take a good first look here today, but just know as things continue to roll out, things will get a little more polished and things like that from the Microsoft side. And we're certainly, I think, David, going to look to do a potential follow-up to this webinar that takes a look at things once it's been out in the wild for a little bit. But without any further ado, David, why don't you go ahead and sort of run us through and show us what Microsoft is bringing to the table?
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. And thank you for those of you that have joined us today. What Kevin is introducing is, the subject of webinars in Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft released this recently. It is currently getting rolled into production across all commercial tenants. It was started, I believe, in March and is continuing through April. So those of you that are currently leveraging Teams should soon see the webinar option show up, and you'll see a screenshot on that. And just one quick note on screenshots and things like that, going back to what Kevin said about marketing materials and so forth, some of the image quality that we were able to obtain from Microsoft documentation and their website don't show the typical quality that we would expect, and that this deck will get updated and will possibly do another follow-up, as Kevin mentioned. So that said, let's dive in. We are attending this meeting, presenting this meeting, and you are attending this meeting via Teams Live events. This is a feature that Microsoft introduced last year. Supports up to 20,000 users in a presentation-only format, meaning as attendees to a live event, the interaction is through the Q&A function in the sidebar, with no audio capability, and that's going to be one of the key distinctions as we get into the presentation here. So the webinar feature has a couple of things. It has moderation controls that we'll talk a little bit about. Supports up to 1,000 attendees in an interactive format, and up to 20,000 attendees in a broadcast. The moderation controls are available to either allow live chat or switch it to Q&A only, control video and audio, and add presenters and so forth. And then we'll look at how Microsoft has introduced live reactions, as well as real-time polling during a webinar, and then post-event reporting. This is just going to be a high-level flyover, just intended to introduce you all to this nifty new feature that Microsoft is bringing into Teams. It kind of bridges that gap between Teams meetings, which support up to 350 interactive attendees. As I said, the webinar function supports up to 1,000 interactively, And then everything beyond that is up to 20,000 broadcast. And then if you need more than 20,000, then you would use Teams Live Event and coordinate that through Microsoft to scale to up to 100,000 with live events. I mentioned the live polling, and the image on the left shows that there was a question that was put out. Where are you joining from? And you've got the options of 4 different continents, and you select that and submit it, and then the presenter would get the results. And then I also mentioned that the chat or moderated Q&A are options as well during the webinar. So if you're hosting a webinar with a large number of people and you don't want to have people interrupting, you can switch it to a moderated Q&A and then switch back to interactive for a dedicated Q&A session toward the end if you want people to be able to speak their questions. So that's one of the distinctive features that they brought with webinar that is not supported in live events. And I mentioned that it supports up to 20,000 people in a view-only broadcast mode, and it switches seamlessly. So if it goes beyond 1,000, it will switch automatically into the broadcast mode, very similar to what we're seeing in this presentation here via live events. So to schedule a webinar, and you'll know when the feature is available in your tenant because you'll see it when you go to schedule a meeting. Click the drop down next to new meeting, and today you would probably just see schedule meeting and live event. Once the webinar feature is enabled in your tenant, you'll see that available there. And this screen shows that how you schedule the event. You've got event details. You're going to put your title, add a title under event details, the date, and a description. Assign whoever the speakers or presenters are here. They will automatically be made presenters on the webinar. All other attendees will automatically just be joining as attendees. And the form on the right where it says register for this event is where the attendees will fill in their information. And you have an option of either requiring registration or not. If you do require registration, then the attendees will have to fill out this form on the right. And you also have the option of putting a survey, some survey questions, and they can be custom as well. You've got multiple options on how those are formatted. So you can capture some information from the attendees even before you schedule your or even before you start the webinar. This screen here shows 2 things. You've got a standout mode where the presenter is on video and it appears in front of the presentation materials. So you see the lady on the right, she's the presenter on camera and is putting her image in front of the presentation. The emoticons, if you will, are popping up. Those are that live reaction that I mentioned. So during the presentation, you can ask users to, you could just point that feature out, and as you go through your presentation, there's something that they really like or whatnot, they can react accordingly live during the event. And then lastly, you have attendance report or attendee report that's generated after the event. It shows everyone's name on the left who participated, the status in the center, attended from lobby, attended from nudge, did not attend, and so forth. The duration of time that they were in the webinar, when they joined and when they left. So that's some very useful statistics. And we didn't include a slide for this, but if you use Dynamic CRM, an upcoming feature later this year, the attendee, you'll be able to correspond a marketing event with the webinar and capture details and so forth. So that's an upcoming feature. I believe it's slated for Q4. And I know that Kevin said that, this is just leading edge, and we just wanted to put some information out to you. It's going to be a very brief presentation, and at this time, we'll go ahead and switch over to Q&A. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question area, and Kevin will read them, and we'll go ahead and respond.
Yeah, to start things off here, David, just a quick question for you. So Microsoft may or may not have spoken about this yet, but you talked about the integration with Microsoft Dynamics. Is there any integration since you showed earlier in the presentation that you can have the actual form and registration done through Teams? Is there any integration that exists between or have they talked about any future integration between Teams and other CRMs, such as Salesforce or HubSpot? If you're using a different marketing platform to sort of handle those things, have they talked about or hinted at any potential future integrations with some of those other systems out there?
That's a great question, and I'd say stay tuned because it literally is a pretty much a bullet point on an early announcement on that functionality, and it is specific to Dynamics, but I would suspect that they would adopt other platforms because there are many other out there, as you mentioned, and you mentioned a couple that are quite widely used. So I would suspect and hope that Microsoft would take that to account, and when the time comes for that, anybody who's listening to the webinar here today, if you're using a different CRM tool than Dynamics and you would like to see that integration with Teams, check out the user voice website that Microsoft monitors regularly. See if there's already an entry related to the subject. If there is, upvote it. If there isn't, create one and contact all your friends and relatives and everybody you know to upvote that, because the more upvotes that a user voice entry gets, the more attention it gets from the development team. Fantastic.
And so question here, and I guess this is a little bit of sort of your opinion here on this one, David. What are some reasons why you would use this functionality inside of Microsoft Teams as opposed to going with a third-party tool that's designed specifically for webinars? I'm thinking off the top of my head things like On24 or GoToMeeting. Some of those, it's GoToWebinar is GoToMeetings. Mm-hmm. Webinar platform. What are some advantages of potentially going with the Microsoft Teams webinar platform as opposed to looking to add one of those additional services onto your current tech stack?
That's a good question, and there are multiple aspects to that. Specific to webinar, compared to using Teams compared to third party. One of the great reasons why we are leveraging Teams for collaboration is Microsoft continually is bringing more and more features like this webinar. They introduced live events last year, as I mentioned, and things like that. And specific to other third-party products, you might be paying a subscription for something for one of those other products that you don't need to be paying because that same functionality is now available in Teams. So that's probably one of the biggest, but a second of equal status, I would say, is that it's very nice to have a single interface where we handle all of our collaboration with the team sites and IM and meetings and video chat, ad hoc calls, Teams meetings for, like I said, up to 350 people, and now the webinars to provide interactive presentations for up to 1,000. So, and the feature set grows on a regular basis within Teams, and Microsoft listens to people. We've seen many features come into play since the COVID-19 pandemic started that were driven by the demand for remote meetings and so forth, and from competition features that competitors like Zoom have, and people were saying, hey, Microsoft, why can't you do this in Teams? well, then it gets rolled into Teams. So we're seeing a lot more of that, and it's a good thing. The way that Microsoft the approach that Microsoft has taken with the Teams platform to constantly improve it and listen to the user community and introduce new features that people ask for, others that the program team comes up with on their own, and so forth. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. And just adding a little anecdote myself, just being obviously as one of the marketing team members here at CoreTech, I'm very familiar with the request to host these webinars. Of course, I help do everything we do here with the Tech Tuesday webinars with the assistance of great presenters like David. But to David's point, I think it's one of the nice things about seeing Microsoft showing so much energy and a willingness to adapt the platform. Just thinking about platforms like GoToWebinar and On24, a lot of them, they've sort of established themselves as really big key players in the sort of industry, and they're not so much interested in sort of building that reputation anymore. So they're sort of take the approach of it's our way or the highway. So it is refreshing to see Microsoft here, who's really shown a real interest in evolving their tool and making it be something that continues to add new features. That is very nice. And the fact that you don't have an additional cost on top of everything else you're doing, I mean, it does make a whole lot of sense, which is part of the reasons why we have switched over to hosting our events through Teams Live events. And one of the reasons why is once we have the capabilities to host the webinars ourselves, once it's rolled out to us, we'll be making use of the tool as well. So yeah, as a marketer, I can certainly say there's definitely, to David's point, something I appreciate about Microsoft's willingness to listen to user feedback and really make some nice updates. All right. Well, I know we are a little bit ahead of time here. I'm not seeing any other questions come in at the moment, but if you do have any, you can, as we wrap things up here, get those submitted because we do have some time left. But David, I see you have a link here where, and again, we'll be sending out the slide deck along with the recording, so you'll be able to access this link here. But can you talk to us a little bit about what this resource is here that you've provided?
Sure. This will take you to the Microsoft website, and that goes over all of the things, the virtual events, webinars, and so forth related to Microsoft Teams. And you can see the brief information that they have shared on their website there. That's what that link is. A couple of the images that you saw in the presentation came from that site. And I would say stay tuned. It was announced officially, I believe, at Ignite, and it's slowly rolling out across like I said, the commercial tenants. And so it's coming to a tenant near you very soon. And we're looking forward to using it. And the next one you join with us on the subject may be via Teams webinar as opposed to live events. So Kevin, I'll just let you go ahead and cover a little bit about CoreTech, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks, David. So, yep. So, as always, CoreTech is here for all of your to help you along your cloud journey needs. So, whether it be anything you're doing in Azure or with Modern Workspace, or if you're working on you're earlier in your stage and you're still managing things that are on premise and trying to get what you can up to the cloud, we're definitely here to help regardless of where you are in that journey. And we really have a lot of fantastic people here at CoreTech, like David, who can really help understand your business objectives, really help figure out where you're trying to go and help find solutions to do that. And speaking of fantastic people like David, we have our entire Tech Tuesday webinar series up on our YouTube channel. You can see here, if you head over to our channel, you can go ahead and see all of the previous videos. David has been kind enough to join us on plenty of previous webinars, but we also have people from other LOBs as well. So we have people talking on Azure topics. We have people talking about Citrix topics, people talking about security items. We really try and cover a wide gambit of topics. But if you want to check out any of our previous things, I definitely recommend heading over to YouTube, finding the Core Tech Services YouTube page. And we do, again, have that Tech Tuesday webinar series where you can check out all of the previous recordings. And then if you're interested in learning how partnering with Core Tech can help digitally transform your organization by leveraging Microsoft Teams, you can go ahead and when we send out the slide deck, you can go ahead and click that schedule a meeting button to go ahead and schedule some time with us here at Core Tech. All right. Want to thank everybody who tuned in. If you're catching us on demand, again, we're sending out the slide deck along with the recording, so you will have access to everything here. David, just want to thank you again for joining us and going over the presentation today. And we will catch you during our next Tech Tuesday webinar, which will be later on this month in April. So thank you, everybody, and have a fantastic rest of your day.